So, Cinco de Mayo. You probably think of music, great food, maybe some margaritas, right? But what if I told you the real story behind the holiday isn't what you think? It's actually not about independence at all. It's about this incredible, almost unbelievable underdog victory. And in this explainer, we're going to dig into the true history behind the party. Okay, so right off the bat, we need to get one thing straight. Let's just tackle the single biggest misconception about this holiday head on. And here it is. Cinco de Mayo is absolutely 100% not Mexico's Independence Day. So that kind of begs the question, right? What are we actually celebrating on the 5th of May? Yeah, the common misconception is that it's this huge independence bash. But the real reason? Well, it's way more specific and, honestly, a lot more dramatic. We're talking about a single heroic military victory. I mean, it's a total David versus Goliath story. And just so we can put this myth to bed once and for all, Mexico's actual Independence Day is September 16th. That's the day that commemorates the Cry of Dolores back in 1810, which was the event that kicked off the entire war for independence from Spain. We're talking a full 50 years before the battle that Cinco de Mayo is all about. Okay, so now that we've busted that myth, you might be wondering, how in the world did Mexico end up in a fight with a major European superpower? Well, the story of this conflict really starts a few years earlier. Believe it or not, it all started with money. Back in 1861, Mexico was in a really tough spot financially, a severe economic crisis. So, President Benito Juarez had to make a really hard decision. He declared a 2-year hold on paying back any foreign debts. And, well, you can probably guess how the lenders, Spain, Britain, and France, felt about that. They were not happy. And from there, things escalated fast. I mean, really fast. What began as a joint debt collection mission in late 1861 just completely unraveled by the next spring. See, Britain and Spain cut their own deals and bailed. But France? Oh, France, under Napoleon III, had much, much bigger plans. And you have to remember the context here. The United States was totally bogged down in its own civil war. So Napoleon saw this golden opportunity to swoop in and set up a new empire right here in the Americas. And that, right there, brings us to the main event. France decides to invade. They're totally confident that Mexico is just going to be an easy pushover. But what they don't know is that they're walking right into one of the most stunning military upsets in history. I mean, just look at this matchup. On paper, it was a total mismatch. You had General Ignacio Zaragoza leading a smaller, kind of ragtag, poorly equipped Mexican force. And who are they up against? The French army, led by General Charles de Lorenzez, who were considered literally the best army in the world at the time. The French were so overconfident, and that, my friends, was going to be their biggest mistake. All right, so picture this. The date is May 5th, 1862. The French army rolls up to the city of Puebla, and they are fully expecting an immediate surrender. Like, we're here, just give up. But that doesn't happen. So they get ready for an attack that they think will be over in like a couple of hours tops. Now, the French strategy here, or maybe the lack of one, was the critical mistake. It was just pure arrogance. Instead of, scouting for a weak point, General Lorenzez orders a direct frontal assault on the 2 strongest, most fortified positions in the whole city, the forts of Loreto and Guadalupe, which were sitting right up on these hills. And get this, even people at the time knew this was a terrible plan. The historian Francisco Bulnes later wrote that the French general basically chose a super risky uphill charge that had, and I quote, scarcely hoped to succeed. It wasn't about tactics. It was all about ego. So the battle goes down pretty much exactly how you'd expect a bad plan to go. These elite French soldiers are charging straight uphill, and they're just getting mowed down by the Mexican defenders who are all dug in and ready for them. They tried it not once, not twice, but 3 separate times during the day. And every single time, they were pushed back, taking heavy losses. By the end of the day, a completely humiliated French army had no choice but to make a full retreat. And the numbers? Well, they tell the whole story. The French, this supposedly unbeatable army, suffered almost 500 casualties. The Mexican defenders, significantly fewer. Now, for an attacking army to lose more soldiers than the people defending, that's a huge deal. It's a clear sign of a decisive and honestly a pretty shocking defeat. So the victory at Puebla was it was spectacular, a huge inspirational moment.
But, and this is a really important but, it's essential to understand that this one glorious battle did not end the war. Don't get me wrong, Puebla was a massive morale boost for Mexico. It sent shockwaves around the world. It proved that the French weren't invincible after all. But it didn't stop the invasion. It just delayed it. Back in France, Napoleon III was humiliated and furious. He fired General Lorenzes and sent a massive wave of reinforcements. We're talking tens of thousands of soldiers. So about a year later, a much, much bigger French army came back. This time they laid siege to Puebla and captured it. Then they marched on to Mexico City and took that too. They ended up installing a European archduke, Maximilian of Austria, as the new emperor of Mexico. So yeah, the war was far from over.
Okay, so this raises a huge question, right? If the French basically won the war, at least at first, why in the world do we celebrate this one single battle? Well, this is where the story of Cinco de Mayo takes another really fascinating turn, especially when it comes to the United States.
What's really interesting is that in Mexico today, Cinco de Mayo is mostly a regional holiday. It's a huge deal in Puebla, of course, where the battle actually happened. They call it El Día de la Batalla de Puebla, the day of the Battle of Puebla. But it's not a big national holiday like Independence Day is. And you can actually still go see one of the forts from that day, Fort Guadalupe. It's a museum now. The way this holiday evolved is just fascinating. So President Juarez made it a national holiday right after the battle happened. But its popularity today, the way we know it, that really exploded in the United States. In the 1960s, Chicano activists here really embraced the story of Puebla. They saw it as this powerful symbol of indigenous peoples standing up to a European colonial power. And from there, it just grew and grew into the huge celebration of Mexican culture that we see today. And ironically, it's now a way bigger deal in the US than it is in a lot of Mexico. So when you boil it all down, the real story of Cinco de Mayo isn't about independence. It's about resistance. It's the ultimate proof that even in a war you might go on to lose, a single, improbable victory can create a symbol so powerful that it echoes for generations and even crosses borders. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. How does a single day of victory come to represent the heritage of millions?